Hi, I am Tiara Perry. I am the love of this handsome man's life, and I am the queen of his heart.
My name is Marcus Perry. I am your husband. I'm your husband, and we've been able to serve together at Christ Central Church and the youth.
And I also get to lead worship here at Christ Central. It's funny, when Marcus and I got married, we made this pact. We're like, okay, after 5 years of marriage, we're going to start thinking about having a family. However, I had gone to the doctor with some stomach pain, and they found some tumors inside of my uterus. I remember telling him we were at school, we were at a teacher work day, and I just started bawling because the prognosis, at least from what I thought, was you're never going to be able to have kids.
And immediately, I'm just like, all of it's hitting me at once, and I was just like, I don't know what to do with the situation. I didn't know how to help you.
So that really started our medical journey, where I had multiple surgeries. I felt like I was living in the hospital, and every time I went to a doctor, it was always bad news.
Yeah, oftentimes the doctors would speak in percentages and provide the chances, the probability of us being able to have kids. So that was really tough. That was really challenging.
I felt so sad. I remember crying to Marcus and telling him, I feel like I'm a failure. I feel like you've always wanted a family and I can't provide that for you. And so I just felt broken. I felt barren. I felt that there was something wrong with me. And every time I went to the doctor, they confirmed that something was wrong with me.
One day I came home and Tiara, she had the living room all decked out. She had this path for me to follow upstairs, and the music is playing, and I'm like, what is going on? And then she had the grand announcement of, I'm pregnant. And I remember I was just standing there and I was completely frozen. No idea what to say.
That was a miracle. I don't know how that happened, but I was so happy. I was super extra. I had caution tape because he has a man cave upstairs. He's a big Georgia Bulldog fan. So I had caution tape, and it said, basically, you're getting evicted. I was so excited. I was through the moon. I was starting to feel all the pregnancy symptoms. I had told everyone. It was a joyous time. So a couple weeks later, we have an ultrasound scheduled, and we get in there. And the lady starts moving the Doppler around, and she's quiet. And I look at her and I say, is there a baby in there? What's going on? And she's just quiet. And I don't remember what she said, but it was not comforting.
I'm trying to make sure Tiara's okay. Hey, everything's fine. They're going to, figure it out.
Yeah, they had mentioned that they wanted us to come back in a couple weeks, that I was just measuring small. I did go back, and not only was there not a heartbeat, the baby had gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, and it was fading away. And I remember just feeling so depressed. I didn't want to get out of bed. My husband is trying to encourage me and reminding me of the goodness of the Lord, but at that time I just couldn't see it.
It was difficult to have to share with my mom, with the in-laws, with friends and people around my close circle, because it's a story I never thought I would have to tell. I never thought that would be my story or our story.
Eventually, I had what they called a miscarriage, and so I had to have a procedure to allow the baby to fully pass. However, there was still a little part of the baby inside of me that was not letting go. In August, I just started bleeding a lot. And being a teacher of high school students, you see lots of things all the time. But in this particular moment, I started bleeding at the school. And it was a lot. It was a lot of blood. It was really scary. I could barely drive home. My car was covered, and I was terrified.
The moment we rushed in to the hospital, rushed into the ER, we're trying to get seen immediately. We had towels to be able to absorb the blood. She was leaving a trail of blood everywhere she stepped and everywhere she walked.
Our medical treatment was subpar. I didn't feel heard. One of the nurses was telling me that it's not that bad. It looks bad, but it's not really that bad.
As she continued to lose blood very quickly, I would see her just sort of enter in and out of consciousness. And I remember letting them know, like, hey, she's becoming really cold. And then she just collapses and falls back into the bed. So immediately they sort of pushed me out to the side of the room.
And it didn't seem like anyone took me seriously until I started fainting and passing out. And I had passed out multiple times. My pain was dismissed. My husband's fear was dismissed. And we were in the hospital for maybe 7 hours. And that whole time, I'm bleeding with no medicine, nothing.
I remember having to make a phone call to a real close brother of mine, and just all I could do was cry in the moment. Words couldn't even come out. It was just crying. And he began to feel what I was feeling. And immediately he just went into prayer.
Yeah, I ended up needing 2 bags of blood. I had an emergency D&C, which is where they go into the uterine cavity and they remove any fragments of the fetus, and we stayed overnight, and I went home the next day. I don't know if I was necessarily upset with God. It was more so, I'm afraid to trust you. I know the phrase is, he is still good, but in my head a lot of times it was, but are you still good if this doesn't happen for me? And of course he is, but that is where I was battling.
And we began to think about what adoption may look like. You know, we began to have just realistic conversations. Maybe it's not for us to have kids. If that is the case, what would that look like for our marriage?
Coach Perry and I, we both work with kids, whether that's with Christ Central Youth Ministry, or I taught high school and he teaches middle school. I have a goddaughter who I babysit all the time, and so I think the Lord has really been healing me through that, because I get to still be a part of kids' lives. Maybe they're not my biological kids, but I call them my kids.
Yeah, I feel like we've been able to have so much joy from other opportunities and other people's experiences around us. And when we're watching other people's kids, just being able to see the gift it truly is to be able to have children. There
are so many women like me who feel ashamed and are fighting this battle alone, thinking that they're broken. And so my hope is that through our story, while we may not have like a perfect bow on top and look, we have this beautiful, huge family, that other women would know that they're not alone.
I think after going through all that we went through over the recent years, you get to experience the Lord, and you get to draw near to him in a way that you never had before. So you get to know him as comforter.
I wouldn't have known God as a comforter had I not gone through this. Like, I've heard that he's a comforter, and I've heard that he's comforted other people. But to personally know him as a comforter, to personally know him as a healer, because there were some points where we thought I was dying on that hospital table and no one cared, it seemed like. And so to know him as a healer for myself has made it a more intimate relationship. Like, I don't know of you as this thing. No, I know you because you have done this personally for me.